Tribun Filipino Duata Alas Kemudung Kun Bang Amiloni Penumayuk Ani Kun Duata Alas No Lembalong Tekui Yo Dalan Molu Ida Bang Lingon Nuku Itu Bulul Bangwat Datu Fat Abaluin datu kulu el tukun abai fu yin boy len konul beng boy bekede beniteng tukun beng baluyan semgulang abai datu wende watan beng balu yen kun datu kulu el abai so nene gen fun le ke fasangin kun beng muda ngak kemakul abai de usengak kemakul abai lumifil taun ufakuda tedemul anukla matukufut gemdolit anuk mugul manat kebong endalum ket bekukon lekodung ket megok gonon amatun Uhayan sigal kawanan yang ketkonan tembuk lanau abai datu wendo watan uhayan sigal sigun benggonon tembuk alabun abai datu lemekulu undu ya udelen
Sabagona Rosi Sula, The Philippine Madrigal Singers and Song Weavers Philippines und Tim Roth. Verehrtes Publikum hier im
Ladies and gentlemen,
weltweit an den Bildschirmen.
in this room and also worldwide on your
Seien Sie herzlich
screens,
willkommen zum Opening
a very
der
warm
Frankfurt
welcome
Buchmesse
to the opening of the Frankfurt Book Fair 2025.
Gedanken und Geschichten
Thoughts and stories
Frankfurt.
are flooding to Frankfurt from all over the world, bound in books, carried by imagination.
Unser Ehrengast,
Our guest of honor, the Philippines, provide the image to us. The imagination peoples the air.
sie beseelt die Luft. Wir atmen Ideen,
We are breathing ideas.
finden uns
They connect us
Zeiten,
in spaces over time, through times and generations, and they change into new realities.
auf Heraus
So we can look forward to outstanding contributions about the relationship between imagination and reality, only at FBM.
bitte begrüßen
So please welcome
Direktor der
the director of the Frankfurt Book Fair, Jürgen Boos.
Guten Abend.
Good evening.
Hätten Sie das von uns erwartet?
Would you have expected this? This enormous, this great choir and the first DJ of Frankfurt Book Fair on stage? I think this is a very promising start.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, dear guests,
herzlich willkommen zur Eröffnung der Frankfurt.
welcome to the opening of the 2025 Frankfurt Book Fair.
Haben wir uns in den vergangenen Monaten
Over the past few months, we at Frankfurt Book Fair have asked ourselves, who are we really? How are we perceived?
was macht uns im Inneren?
What defines us at our core?
Die Antwort ist klar.
And the answer is clear.
Sie gefällt mir.
And we like it, I like it. It is, the Frankfurt Book Fair connects people from all over the world. That is our brand
In einer
essence.
Welt, in der Grenzen wieder
In a world where borders are regaining power, the ability to connect people has also become an immensely political one.
jedes Jahr aufs Neue.
We take on this task every year anew, and this year perhaps with unprecedented urgency.
Das Verbindende der Frankfurter
The
Buchmesse
connecting nature of the Frankfurt Book Fair is also evident in the fact that I have the honor of personally welcoming a few of our guests on behalf of many. My first greetings goes to the guest of honor. Welcome, Senator Legarda and delegation from the Republic of the Philippines. Welcome.
ist zum ersten Mal
And he is with us for the first time in his role as Minister of State for Culture and Media. Welcome, Dr. Wolfram Weimer.
auch hat
And he is also making his debut with us today, the Hessian Minister of State Education, Armin Schwarz. Welcome.
für die Stadt Frankfurt am Main
On behalf of the city of Frankfurt am Main, I welcome Lord Mayor Mike Joseph and City Council President Hilime Aslana.
Die Frankfurter Buchmesse ist international.
Frankfurt Book Fair is international. This is impressively demonstrated by the presence of guests from international organizations, institutions and ministries, as well as the numerous representatives of the diplomatic and consular corps.
Die zahlreichen Verbände
On behalf of the numerous associations in the industry, I warmly welcome the president of the IPA, Gwanza Yubava, and the Secretary General, José Borguinho.
only at FBM. Wir begrüßen
Only at FBM, we welcome the VIPs of tomorrow, today already. We have trainees from Media Campus among us, as well as scholarship holders who are migrants and are getting their degrees in Germany, as well as young authors from the Literaturhaus Frankfurt and high school students from the Junge Paulskirche program of the Polytechnic Society Foundation. We are delighted to have you here.
Sehr geehrte Vertreterinnen der Bundesland.
Dear representatives of federal, state and local politics, dear authors and publishers, dear award winners and exhibitors, dear media representatives, dear guests in the hall and watching in front of the monitors around the globe. This list alone shows how connecting this fair is. Connection creates inspiration.
Ideen und Fiktionen.
Just imagine, ideas and fiction bound in over 80,000 new publications come to Frankfurt from every continent. They come from Bogota and Buenos Aires, from Toronto and Osaka, from Milan and Manila. They come from metropolis and from the countryside and find their way here to the heart of Europe. One figure illustrates the scale of this. If we calculate an average of 2,000 hours of work per publication, this year we are presenting over 18,000 years of intellectual work, almost half a human lifetime. What a thought. And by we, I mean all of us, those who write, design, publish, exhibit, and connect with visitors here in Frankfurt. The Frankfurt Book Fair is part of a story that is more than the sum of its parts. It's leading our industry into the future. And this history also includes the voices from politics and literature that inspire us tonight. They show how imagination creates new realities. Our guest of honor, the Philippines, brings a wonderful and powerful image to this. In the 1880s, José Rizal, a doctor and writer, lived in Germany. In Heidelberg and Leipzig, he translated Schiller's Wilhelm Tell into Tagalog, a tale of freedom whose impact reached far beyond the Alps. Words that originated in Europe gave hope and direction in Asia. Rizal's novel Noli Me Tangere also gave rise to the Philippine motto, "The imagination peoples the air." It reminds us how literature transcends boundaries and brings ideas to life. The Philippines is bringing more than 100 authors and artists to Frankfurt, and with them come books ranging from climate fiction to diaspora literature, from graphic novels to poetry. They open up new perspectives on the diversity of an archipelago with 7,841 islands. And they show how literature transcends linguistic, media and cultural boundaries across continents. The stage now belongs to the voices of Philippine literature. Thank you very much.
Drei Begriffe, verwoben zu einem Gesamtwerk.
Three concepts interwoven into a complete oeuvre: language, encounters, homecoming. Three national languages, three incantations, three blessings of hope, three ambassadors of poetry from different generations and regions.
Liebe Gäste,
dear guests,
aus der Republik
from the Republic of the Philippines, Merli M. Alunan, Marjorie Evasco, and Muki Katikbag La Cuesta.
Tonight, as poets, we invite you to take part in this ritual. the artist's way of opening the world's largest gathering of books and writers.
Some of the books here speak in verses. Many centuries ago, these verses were sung from memory and grace. In the frantic days ahead, some of the people you will meet here are poets like us.
Poetry professes its faith in the chanted word. It has the power to summon reality. Through this shared ritual, we wish you 3 graces, 3 blessings bestowing favors upon this gathering.
In my country of many islands, our people speak in many languages. We know some of these languages. We speak and write in them. Our poetry comes in many tongues. But whatever language we speak, our meanings for love, peace, joy and grief, and human dignity are the same as anyone else's in the world. Pinangga.
My sweet,
Isakay sa hangin.
let your laughter ride the wind.
Ugidang
Let it come to the cave of my loneliness,
dong sa langob
where I hide amongst people without faces,
tawhang
deaf, blind, and ignorant of great wide sky cupped in your tiny hands.
nga kinumkum sa imong palad.
I strew these words to the wind, blow them to you, in the hope that they would bring heaven lower and the moon would snag on rooftop.
Sa bubong sa akong payag.
The landscape of language has no geography. Already, love isn't an intersection between Ongpin and Misericordia. It's a small graveyard in Amherst where Stancic, 5, is unlearning his Russian. He reads American names off stones the way my mother recited her mysteries, the plump, soft beads wet with tears and intention. His memory is still Russian, and when a tractor roars in the distance, cutting an oblique, clear line to tomorrow, the boy breaks my heart.
When I sing of Balikasag, island whose name inscribes the upturned crab, I am translating a story of fire, raising a whole village to the ground when the revolution was fought. In the month dolphins are born, mothers weaving pandan mats pause to tell the story of how it happened one day in May, in the month of fiestas in Bohol. The church bells rang mad at dawn. Someone had set fire to the orchard of Padre Domingo del Valle. By noon, even the grasshoppers had turned to ashes.
Here in this moment and space, we celebrate the grace of encounters. Literally, this means meeting people, many for the first time. People come with good intentions for a special cause. So we hope to happen to one another in grace and joy. Nakita kita sa bukas na bintana. Buhok mo'y kasing itim at kasing kinis.
I saw you from an open window, your hair
Andres,
as slick and dark as your black cravat. Andres, you were not my particular, but I was your only. I thrilled to you as I would anyone who wanted me.
This rock, this island, this changed air, the distance between us and the self we have longed to be. A bolt of burning blue lights in my brain, gives the answer we've pursued this whole day. Sea waves sing it. The kingfisher flies in it. This island is rooted in it. Desiring God is transparent blue, the color which makes our souls visible.
Our poems tell of the worlds of our origins. With the Philippines as our shared homeland, the language of our poems celebrate nature, the distinct world of the tropics. That same language presents to you our seeming hyper-reality, the beguiling spaces where we come from and which sustain our imagination. I tell you, nothing here grows in moderation, leaves as wide. You can wrap an infant in them. It's the all-year sun, or rain pouring from the sky like rivers, while storms can blow a man clear to the other side of the island. The leeches. Oh, the leeches. I've seen them thin as pencil lead before feeding, hiding under jungle leaves. When they sense a warm body coming near, they allow themselves to fall. Poetry's idiom allows us to retell many instances of absence. In the act of retelling what has taken place, the poet summons them anew. We celebrate not only the present, which brings us together, but also the past. That which have been concluded, but also endures as a force, taking us to this place, this moment, now.
Entstanden vor 100
An idea that came across 100 years ago and up to today a symbol of new thinking, the new Frankfurt. The city as a place which creates space for a good life, for freedom.
Ein Fundament der Demokratie
A foundation of democracy,
und Gesellschaft.
architecturally and socially.
Verehrte Gäste,
Dear guests,
Bürgermeister der
the
Stadt
Lord Mayor of the city of Frankfurt am Main, Mike Josef.
Sehr geehrter Herr Wurst,
Mr. Bose,
sehr verehrten Minister,
ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Weimer and Schwarz, dear Senator,
verehrte Frau Schmidt-Friedrich,
dear Miss Schmidt-Friedrichs, on this day, please allow me to thank you personally. As a Lord Mayor, I have worked together with you in the last 2 years. You have been the chair of the Association of the German Book Trade for many years, and it's now the last book fair which you are guiding us through in this capacity. You've done a great job, especially in the times of the pandemic. You have been quick to react. You made adjustments and adaptations and kept the course. So on behalf of the city of Frankfurt, I would like to thank you very much indeed, Ms. Schmidt-Friedrichs.
Ich freue mich natürlich auch.
Of course, I'm also pleased and looking forward to the next few days. Ladies and gentlemen, one guiding question which I put down for my speech was,
als wirkmächtig in
which idea is going to be most effective in the present day and age? I would say it's democracy, the idea of democracy. Democracy is a political idea which has been and still is very efficient in many ideas. It brought us wealth, it brought us prosperity and freedom and humanity, the freedom to take our own fate into our hands and to live without fear and of arbitrariness. But it is a political idea. And political ideas, as I know all too well, need majorities, they need conviction, they need an attitude, a stance. And unlike what Francis Fukuyama said, democracy does not seem to be the end of history, doesn't necessarily have to be the end of history, because the history of mankind has never been linear. It has been a history of struggle for ideas, and the zeitgeist can change. Who better to know this than culture, literature, at this present day place of the word of the book, which is Frankfurt. Frankfurt also the location of the Paul's Church, which is where basic human rights and basic rights have been decided. For example, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of association. And in 1848 we had the first sitting of the first German Parliament. And although the democratic revolution of 1849 failed, these ideas were the basis for the constitution of the Weimar Republic and for the German Basic Law, which is a German constitution presently, and made us strong. So very powerful ideas will survive time. And this brings me to a historic role model, Ludwig Landmann. 100 years ago, he initiated the movement of the new Frankfurt, urbanistic movement, and really determines my own life. He was the Lord Mayor 100 years ago, and he was confronted with many challenges, very difficult challenges for him to master at a time which was much more difficult in terms of the general situation than today. One big topic was the lack of residents, of dwellings, and Landmann took responsibility and created a new city and a new society in a democratic way. From his vision, reality was born, and he was convinced that a modern city must be more than just lines and lines of houses and streets. It must be there must be a cultural harmonization of space. Landmann was driven by the optimistic conviction that things must be changed to the positive. He wanted to give hope to people, not just with words, but also with deeds. The city was supposed to grow together and turn into a metropolis open to the world. He banked on the expertise of Ernst May, who had a multi-professional team of architects, technicians, and artists and designers to create something of one piece, not just higgledy-piggledy, but really of one piece. And I would like to use Max Weber's words, the ethos of responsibility. So it's a duty of responsibility which becomes the basis of your action. And unfortunately today this is being replaced by an attention economy where appeals and the creation of the images of the enemy get the applause, but without really making an improvement in real terms, in real life. Deciding what is the right thing and then convincing or persuading the general public about this. This is really what makes and breaks great politicians. And Ludwig Landmann did so, and he made a profound change, achieved a profound change to Frankfurt. This project wasn't just an architectural project, it was a social project which became reality. And as Landmann said, it was a new attempt at finding your bearing in a changing world. Landmann wanted to shape the society democratically through architecture, design and culture. These lighthouse projects of progress of the time shape Frankfurt to the present day. The many neighborhoods which are affordable, allow for affordable living, the connection of the international airport and the connection to the fairgrounds represent an open city. And the infrastructure which was created at the time is something which we still benefit from today. And I think it was the basis for the economic prosperity of Frankfurt after the Second World War. The brilliant ideas by Landmann and the people around him who implemented his ideas then ended when he had to abdicate in 1933. Because he had a Jewish origin, he had to flee the Nazis, and he died miserably in exile. All his achievements played no role anymore. Ladies and gentlemen,
Das Wesen der Demokratie,
the essence of democracy is,
sich selbst demokratisch abwählen kann.
it can also
Sie kann an der Gleichgültigkeit
abdicate democratically, can be voted down democratically. It can fail because of the indifference of the Democrats. That's why it's so important to maintain democracy, because it's about the protection of every single human being, ladies and gentlemen.
Die Ideen Landmanns prägen.
Landmann's ideas still shape our city today. The goal of Landmann was to turn Frankfurt into an open metropolis, cosmopolitan place, and this has been successful. We are the most cosmopolitan place in Germany. As a guest of honor, the Philippines are a country which consists of many islands, language, realities, and traditions, and also many ethnic groups and religions. These many voices are united in one society. Landmann too brought people together in this project of the new Frankfurt. And now we have a diverse society in our city of Frankfurt. As a Lord Mayor, my point is to make diversity and coexistence possible. Diversity is what also shows our unity. That's the only way we can have a peaceful society. Places like the book fair are marketplaces for ideas and stories. Many voices are shown here, and we need more encounters and more debates and no prejudice and foregone conclusions. We need to allow for ambivalence, and we need to meet more places for these encounters. So as part of 100 years of new Frankfurt, we picked up on the idea of lampion festivals, and these sort of festivals were created 100 years ago, and 100 years later we celebrate the visionary imagination of the new Frankfurt, the Neues Frankfurt project, and we strengthen the cohesion in our city where humans can be human no matter where they come from. So welcome to Frankfurt, the city of the book and of the open word. Thank you very much.
Democracy. Kern unserer Gesellschaft.
The core essence of our society.
Existiert sie seit
And it has existed in the Hessian constitution for 80 years in form of the written word.
sie selbst.
We bring it to fruition by living it, day after day, from childhood onwards.
Verehrte Gäste,
Dear guests, the Hessian Minister of Education, Armin Schwarz.
Distinguished guests from all over the world, dear friends of literature and democracy, dearest children and young people. Books are bridges. Democracy is a bridge. And today, here in Frankfurt, at the crossroads of world literature, we celebrate the most important bridge builders of all, our children. Let me begin with a story that happened right here in Hesse just 2 years ago. Amina kam vor 2 Jahren aus Afghanistan nach
Amina came to Frankfurt from Afghanistan 2 years ago, and she was 12 years old.
hatte sie erlebt, wie
In her homeland, she had seen her school closed,
ihre Bücher weggenommen wurden,
her books taken away, and she had been told that her dreams didn't matter because she was a girl.
An ihrem ersten Tag in einer deutschen Schule
On her first day at a German school, something happened that she still remembers today. Her teacher stood in front of her, took her by the hand, led her into the classroom, and told her, "You are wanted here. We will take care of you, and we want to hear what you think." After 6 months, Amina raised her hand in class for the first time. Cautiously, hesitantly, still not quite sure whether it was really allowed. And when she spoke, something inside her broke open. Not because her German was perfect, it wasn't. Not because she had the right answer, there wasn't one. But because she was asked what she thought and what she felt, and that this meant freedom. But the feeling of freedom also came at a price for Amina, i.e. courage and the strength to overcome fear. She knows now, but she still doesn't quite believe it. She has the same rights as all the other boys and girls in class. And only because she now lives here with us in Germany. That's democracy. Not in the constitution, although that's important. Not in parliament, although that is crucial. But in a classroom where a girl from Kabul discovers that her thoughts, her voice, her dreams are valuable, simply because she's a human being. And recognizing this is the greatest task of education and of democratic education, ladies and gentlemen.
Und das verpackt in ein Alltagsgefühl.
And this wrapped in the everyday feeling, this is the biggest present of our society. Almost 80 years ago, when Germany lay in ruins, courageous people in Hesse dared to do something astonishing. They wrote into their constitution that every child and every adult deserves democratic education and dignity and is allowed to think freely and is even supposed to do so. That was more than just words. It was a new beginning. And it turned into reality. Hesse became a role model for the whole of Germany. And what was the first step? Well, you were able to live freely what had been forbidden before without a guilty conscience inhibiting you and with the unconditional conviction that you are allowed to develop freely. Democracy does not start in parliament, it starts in the little stories that children experience every day. When a Jewish boy in Kassel explains to his classmate how to celebrate Passover, when a Ukrainian student in Darmstadt reads a poem in German for the first time, and the class applauds. When children from 12 different countries play soccer together and argue about who has the best goalkeeper and not where he comes from. Or when Jewish and Muslim children experience adventures together on a school trip and trust each other and stick together even in difficult times. These are the moments when democracy breathes, when democracy lives and grows. This is precisely why this precious achievement must be defended every day anew, ladies and gentlemen. Children build bridges every day, often without even noticing. You know, 7-year-old David once told me during a visit to his elementary school, Tao speaks 3 languages, Chinese, German, and a little English. I only know German and a little English. But he teaches me Chinese words, and I teach him Hessian swear words. And he grinned mischievously. But I'm not allowed to say them here. What this 7-year-old is doing is revolutionary. He's building a bridge not made of concrete or steel, but of curiosity, of laughter, and of the simple desire to understand the other. Children don't ask about origin. They ask, would you like to play with me? They don't see boundaries. They see opportunities. They are born democrats if we let them, ladies and gentlemen. And this is precisely where we adults bear a huge responsibility. Because children don't just learn from books, they learn from what we model for them. They learn from our attitude, from our openness or our prejudices as well. And this closes the loop to the book fair, this temple of stories. Books are the most democratic tools we have. A book doesn't ask who you are, where you come from. It opens up to anyone who opens it. In its pages, we can live 1,000 lives, take 1,000 perspectives, and yes, also understand 1,000 worlds. Amina is now reading Matilda by Roald Dahl, a book about a girl who is different, who loves books, who finds her voice. And when she reads it, she feels and understands, I am not alone. That's the magic of literature. It shows that we are not alone, that others feel the same way, that our stories are important. And that's why we need libraries in every neighborhood. That's why we need reading promotion in every school. That's why we need books in many different languages so that every child can find their own story. Yes, a book can be a home if you don't have one. A book can be a voice if you don't have one. And a book can be a bridge if you don't see one. And we must not take any of this for granted. In this world where walls are being built, where voices are being silenced, where books are being banned again, in this world, we must become louder, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, here at the book fair, we want to make a clear promise. We will give every child, no matter where they come from, the opportunity to discover the world with education and books, courageous teachers, and open-minded classmates. The first seeds for this were sown about 80 years ago in Hesse. And, well, next year we will turn 80, to be precise. Today they are blossoming all over Germany. And Hesse in particular shows democracy is not just freedom from something. It is the freedom to become someone. The freedom to be Amina and raise the hand. The freedom to be David and learn Arabic words. The freedom to dream, to ask questions, to doubt and to grow. That's what books make possible. That's what democracy promises. That's what we must protect. Let's protect it, put a lot of love into it, and pass it on to each new generation. And may the books we celebrate this week build bridges that will lead many more children safely into their future and into our future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Feuer und künstliche Intelligenz.
Fire and artificial intelligence both have the potential for immeasurable benefit once we have tamed its power. The taming is not breaking down or breaking. It is a clear yes for progress, but it also shows in whose hands the responsibility lies.
Verehrte Gäste,
Dear guests,
der Staatsminister für Kultur und Medien.
Please welcome the Minister of State for Education and Media and the Culture and the Media, Wolfram Weimar.
Das Buch liegt offen.
nicht wie ein Gegenstand.
The book lies open not like an object, but like a breath coming from the depths.
In Frankfurt,
pieces of paper rise so quietly that only the heart can hear them when all is quiet. And every word spoken there carries the desire to be heard by something greater than time. Ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. I have not turned into a hobby poet. What you've just heard was ChatGPT. Once you enter the Q's book, Frankfurt, and a poem in the style of Rilke without any verses. The result isn't so good that real poets should be afraid. However, it is not too bad either. It's not so bad that we should not be worried, because the truth is, AI is likely to disrupt literature and books, and from these fragments it will create new digital worlds. And to be open about this, it is more dramatic than what we've seen with digitalization, which is a process which the book as a medium has survived in a very resilient way, and which is of course down to the creative power and the intelligence of many people meeting up here. It wasn't coincidentally a writer who anticipated augmented intelligence. This was Jonathan Swift. His hero, Gulliver, everyone knows him, gets to know a machine on his journeys, and whose inventor says, full of praise, that with its help, even the most ignorant person, without being supported by any talent or studies, could write philosophical, poetic, political, legal, mathematic, or theological books. End of quote. So what Swift designed in the 18th century as a satirical future vision is now becoming reality. It is becoming a double-edged reality, in fact. Of course, AI will help authors in their research, will help them writing. It will revolutionize our work. Publishers can create whole books, virtualities, whole worlds, complete works, thrillers, dark romance, chick lit, and the rest of it. Anything can be produced at a hit of a button. And the truth is, even now, that if the algorithms are sometimes cleverer than the supposedly magic machine of the human brain. They can be more complex, more creative, and of course faster. But this is not just a narcissistic humiliation for us. But data mining also penetrates the core of our human thinking and feeling. Like vampires, AI companies are extracting the creative potential from innumerable smart brains. They use their ideas and emotions, their creativity and their visions. This means that the great cultural achievement of works of art, especially books, are becoming booty or loot. I'm using this word on purpose. I think this is intellectual vampirism, and it hits literature very hard. The pseudo-Rilke poem, which I read at the beginning, is an idea, as a first idea of how authors are being plundered, who rack their brains for each line, whose existence revolved around the written word, who put all their lifetime achievement, their energy, their crises and their downs into these words. All this is becoming a huge pool from which you can fish at will in order to generate sales, sometimes billions worth of sales. So AI somehow is cutting the grass and cutting the blue flowers down and collects the harvest and turns the harvest into industrial products. So these are sometimes literary deepfakes. They are easy to consume, easy to read, but there is a lack of je ne sais quoi which radiates from great art. Instead, we are experiencing a devaluation of works of art into a commodity through the standardization of AI products. This may sound like Adorno, and Adorno actually forecast the disastrous mechanisms of the cultural industry. The forecast was that this could also end up in trivial things. He was wrong with that forecast, but it doesn't mean that the future may be in store for us. This AI future, which eliminates the authentic, the unique, by leveling everything and dumbing down everything and exploiting everything. It is destroying the gesture of individual artistic personal affirmation. If you continue along these lines, then maybe we can only read affirmative works of literature. They will dominate maybe the market, and this will create a kind of progress, pseudo-progress, which creates problems which we have to address urgently. There are these terms of mining, of scraping, so the creaming off of contents, and the term data mining, I think, is a euphemism in itself, because it suggests that the big techs, the AI companies, are some kind of digital successors to mining companies, as if they had a license to mine raw materials and to process them. But we're not talking about raw materials, we're talking about texts, images, music, films, lifetime achievements, and certainly they do not have a license. It's a kind of gold rush feeling which we are experiencing. And what is happening in the computer centers of Silicon Valley and Shenzhen is a very lucrative and industrially organized, and it's very impressive technically, but it's a crusade.
Lassen Sie es mich offen sagen, die amerikanischen und die
The American and the Chinese tech giants are training their AI systems with the contents and the creative achievements of this world. They've done so in the last 5 years, and they never asked us about our permission. And this means the whole cultures are becoming the suppliers of raw materials, and they're exploited. I call this a kind of digital colonialism, which we must not accept any longer. That's why in the new government in the last weeks we've talked to the big CEOs of the big tech companies in Berlin, and we clearly said that this kind of the division of labor is not desirable to us anymore. We need to come up with new forms. We need to tax them, a kind of platform solidarity tax. We have to address them with the cartel law, because if they are creating monopolies, we have to open them, we have to destroy them, really, and in order to keep competition open. And we need to come up with regulations which really protect the copyrights. So I'm talking about this so clearly with these clear words because there is a further problem with this. So what shall we do if this new power of AI, this huge capital binds up with political power? Then we are at their mercy. We have been given a glimpse of that when the American president, in his enthusiasm, decided to rename a sea and called the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America. 4 weeks later, Google put this into practice, and through the sheer force of Google Maps, it has changed the world maps. UN had no chance there, and this can tell you what can happen if we just accept these monopolies to hold sway. But there is also good news, and the book fair is good news. It is really what celebrates literature. These machines, no matter how they are built, they do not breathe, they do not dream. Whatever they produced, be they textures or contents, we cannot feel any pulse, we can't feel any heartbeat, we can't feel any breath. That's why the motto of this year's book fair, Fantasy Peoples the Air, inspired by the Filipino writer José Rizal, is so apt. Describing the problem we have, imagination peoples the air, and the imagination of authors moves us and makes us think anew and opens up a space of feeling and thinking. That's why the many voices at this book fair is a great experience, because the freedom of the word, of imagination and of thinking is actually lived and can be felt. And it was mentioned that we're living in a time where autocracies are in the advance, where our democracy is really under threat, where more and more countries fall to the lure of autocracy. And even in Germany, we have this threat through right-wing extremism, which really wants to create a new authoritarianism. And if this links up with the power of AI and the echo chambers of the digital world, then it becomes very hard to defend our democracy the way our Lord Mayor has demanded just now. And that's why what's happening at the book fair is so important. Also, the celebrating the beauty of language is important, because in this we have the magic of art and the freedom of thinking, and in this way you create safe havens for authors who are authors and not content suppliers, because there is such a thing as a writer's ethos. For example, the ethos of Rilke, the authentic Rilke, this search for meaning and for reality, which is created by poetic transformation. I'd like to quote a letter from Rilke dating back to 1913. He writes, "The longer I live, the more necessary it seems to me to keep going, to write down the whole dictation of life to the very end. For it could be that the last sentence contains the small, maybe inconspicuous word, which makes everything I learn painfully and fail to understand turn into glorious, meaningful sense." And these last words, which make everything make sense, will never be found by AI. So let us really contain Google and Co., or force them if necessary, or destroy monopolies. We should not really despair, and we should be more daring and think more in terms of Rilke. Thank you very much.
Sprache. Ein Land aus unendlich.
Language, a country of many islands, everyone slightly different, united in their link to life.
Worte begegnen sich.
Words meet up, they become magic formulae, they start searching for their home, they find their way into our hearts.
Wertes Publikum.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the Republic of the Philippines, we have another example of the poetry by Merli Alunan, Marjorie Vasco, and Muki Pacabak La Cuesta.
Finally, we celebrate the grace of coming home.
But what is home? Home is not always a place that you leave behind or return to. Home is a place in your mind that knows who you are, a memory, a belief, a thought that keeps you together in the face of adversity. Thus, you can be anywhere in the world and be at home. Apan
I roam,
bisan diin
I drift around, climb mountains,
bisag unsa pa man
cross many streams,
gipanglaban
leave many things behind.
lugsong man
But I'm sure
Nagwa na diha
I'll find them again.
mga biniyaan
I keep them all in my mind, like the lead stone
ikaplagan kurak
that once I had put in my pocket,
pamatu
a smooth piece,
balon
the weight exact,
alipatakan
measured to my need,
hamis
fit for all my intentions,
to ang gibug aton
true to my purpose,
sa panginahanglan
its meaning,
mutug
steadfast,
tumong
my safety against the waves.
away sa balod ug sulog way sipyat ang kahulugan. We come home to glorious destinations paved for us by many bards, the curious, the delightful, the mysterious, the lucid, the wise, and the emergent, the rebel. They who know so well the joy of coming home, their verses becoming like a secret room of one's own, secure and dwelt in the mind.
He has just paddled the bangka out of Postan Gamay, where the branches of the mangrove arch above the water, a temple of dark green silence. In his heart, he keeps the oars quiet. Delivered back to the light and sound of the world, he sees, hears, wild emerald doves and orioles stir the river, dipping their wings for a bath and sunning on a wire strung across the breadth of a baton. It will soon be sunset. He catches his breath at the shimmer of wings when the birds shake droplets loose from their feathers. A light breeze passes through the nipa fronds on the riverbank, fetches faint sounds of a church bell calling the faithful to prayer. It is time to come home.
Progress. Seal a scar with young skin. Lose count of things you meant for. No one said marriage was architecture, but I know adore your anger shut mildly and did not wake a child. From a window, saplings grew lean boughs. We loved darkly. Light never left the house. Seasons later, some of us will say that something touched us here. For to be touched is to experience intimacy, or that consuming anxiety over how our earth spirals down from our mistreatment and disrespect for it. For to be touched is to feel and know our world is riven by unjust conflicts and wars. But also to be touched is that radiant thrill called hope, or love, or kindness to one another. That age-old pit in the stomach of lovers everywhere.
Watch the old lovers touch. Enough now. They know the dragonfly that weightless lights upon one's shoulder must be left to fly back free to the light, which is its world. Suffice then the slightest touch for all a lifetime's frenzy of living and loving. Mga kasangkayan, malipayon nga pagtambong sa peryahan han libro ha Frankfurt.
Friends, welcome to the Frankfurt Book Fair.
Okay, yun. In Tagalog this time, mga kaibigan, maligayang pagdalo sa Frankfurt Book Fair. Let's hug each other. Let's hug each other.
There goes my... Never mind.
Fantasie beseelt die Luft.
Imagination peoples the air. It's a powerful weapon feared by those people exploiting and tyrannizing people.
Sie spricht von Freiheit,
Imagination talks about freedom, justice,
Hoffnung.
hope.
Und wenn ihre Kraft
And if its power is unleashed, its force is unleashed, then a people will rise and overcome suppression.
verehrte Gäste,
Dear guests,
die Senatorin der Republik,
the Senator of the Philippine Republic, LOREN LEGARDA.
Imagine growing up being told that your national hero, the one who sparked the liberation of your people from more than 3 centuries of colonization, was not a warrior with a sword, but a writer with a pen. Ours was a medical doctor, a poet, a novelist, in the name of Dr. Jose Rizal, who made imagination his sharpest weapon. His words carved hope where despair had reigned, dignity where oppression had prevailed. For that imagination, he was executed in 1896, condemned not for violence, but for radical thought. It was not arms that colonizers feared most, but ideas. Ideas that roused a nation and ignited the first revolution in Southeast Asia. Such is the power of literature. To us, Filipinos, to awaken, to resist, to liberate. Let me tell you a little story. Rizal came to Heidelberg in 1886. And by the way, Jürgen Boos comes from Heidelberg. A young physician of 24, he studied ophthalmology under Professor Otto Becker at the Augen Clinic of the University of Heidelberg. I believe it's still standing. Hoping to cure the failing eyesight of his beloved mother, Theodora Alonso. Imagine such devotion, the love of a son who traversed continents, explored libraries and laboratories, all to restore light in his mother's eyes. It was here too that Rizal encountered German literature, including the work of Friedrich Schiller, whose dramas thundered with the conviction that tyranny must fall and liberty must govern. Rizal forged this temper into his own vision, a Filipino people who would stand free and never again live under foreign dominion. In his solitude by the Neckar River in Heidelberg, he composed the famous A las Flores de Heidelberg. May I briefly quote it. Carry, carry, O flowers, my love to my loved ones, peace to my country and its fecund loam, faith to its men, and virtue to its women, unquote. A poem to flowers in Germany became a letter to his homeland. From that longing emerged a book. Rizal completed the final chapters of the Noli Me Tangere, Touch Me Not, the novel that held a mirror to colonial society and revealed the deep wounds of oppression in a humble Protestant vicarage in Wilhelmsfeld, 20 minutes away from Heidelberg. The following year, in 1887, it was published in Berlin by the Lette Verein, with women's hands setting into type the very sentences that made powerful men tremble. And on its first page, Rizal placed a challenge, a direct quote from Schiller's poem, Shakespeare's Ghost. And I quote, "What? Does no Caesar, does no Achilles appear on your stage now? Not an Andromache, even not an Orestes, my friend. No, there is naught to be seen there but parsons and syndics of commerce, secretaries perchance, ensigns and majors of horse. But my good friend, pray tell me, what can such people ever meet with that can truly be called great? What that is great can they do?" Unquote. Schiller mourned a world abandoned by heroes, a world that had forgotten the grandeur of fearlessness. Rizal answered by being that hero. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, tonight I stand before you as a daughter of an archipelago of more than 7,000 islands scattered across the sea like pearls. Geography that others call fragmented, we call infinite. Imagination is the vessel that inspires our people of many tongues and many spirits across mountains and seas. A nation freed because a son set out to heal his mother's eyes became the writer who illuminated his people. Is this not almost as if history itself prepared for this moment? Because 10 years ago, in 2015, I first imagined the Philippines as a guest of honor of the Frankfurter Buchmesse, knowing what I've always believed, that Filipino voices belong among the world's greatest literature. The circle of history closes, but it also opens anew. Today, let the world see us for what we are, as knowledge makers, as culture bearers, and conceivers of ideas from which the world itself may learn. This is why we chose as our theme, the imagination peoples the air, drawn from Rizal's Noli Me Tangere. Because imagination, my friends, can be threatening to tyrants because it speaks of freedom, threatening to exploiters because it demands justice, threatening to cynics because it insists on hope. Imagination must not be gentle. It is a necessary fire. Fire that burns away indifference. Fire that lights the dark corners where injustice hides. Fire that refuses to let our conscience sleep while others suffer. With more than 400 delegates, hundreds of titles, dozens of installations, performances, dialogues, and conversations, each one a window into our imagination. We gather here to ask, what kind of imagination will people the air today and in the coming days? Here at the world's largest gathering of stories and ideas, we bear witness to the power of words to build what is just, not for ourselves alone, but for one another. In a time when walls rise higher than bridges, when children's bodies shrink to the bone from starvation, when entire families are crushed and buried beneath shattered concrete, when hands are cuffed for nothing more than their color, we return to the threatening truths for which Rizal gave his life and through which a nation rose. That literature must provoke the conscience, break the silence imposed by fear, and ignite courage where misery has been sown by the despotic, the corrupt, and the cruel. Before he left Europe, Rizal wrote, and I quote, "I will dedicate my last farewell to Germany. I owe Germany my best remembrances," unquote. And so tonight, in honoring his legacy, we continue what Rizal began, to let imagination describe the world as it is and to refuse what it must not be. To unsettle the comfortable who can look upon suffering and remain unmoved, and to reach those who hold fast to their humanity, that they may know they do not stand alone in defending what gives life its worth, dignity, and justice. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is from knowing that we speak, we come to offer you a glimpse of our becoming, where literature kindled imagination, imagination awakened courage, courage compelled action, and action brought forth liberation. And if one book written by a Filipino on German soil awakened a nation thousands of miles away long ago, imagine, just imagine what we together can awaken today. Mabuhay ang sining at panitikang Pilipino. Long live Philippine art, culture, and literature. Maraming salamat po, vielen Dank.
Information, die Quelle unserer Entscheidungen. Wir holen sie nicht nur aus Büchern, wir tanken sie.
Information is not just books.
Algorithmen und Reichtum.
There are also algorithms and determine
keine Grenzen setzen.
what we read. And as long as we don't set limits to our own behavior,
Mutige Politik der
through a courageous policy of care and responsibility.
Verehrte Gäste,
Dear guests, please welcome the chair of the German Publishers and Booksellers Association, Karin Schmidt-Friedrichs.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, before I will open this fair with this hammer officially, I would like to ask you something. Why are you here today? Why are you going to meet up with so many people from different worlds in the next few days and evenings? Why is this important to you? Why do not leave this to bots or to AI? I think at this one of the most important cultural events of the world, the question really is how we shall live with each other, because this is what is being negotiated in books. How are we going to inform ourselves? How are we going to form an opinion? What is the basis for our decisions? Who is to decide which information is available to us? And what does this mean for our coexistence in democracy and freedom? Here at this fair, 4,000 exhibitors from 130 countries are presenting a diversity of information, and the book fair creates the space for exchange of views, business, dialectics and discourse. This is a place where our imagination can create ideas which may change our reality and our future, where however, in the virtual world, from now on, you may think that Minister Weber and me share an office. We don't share an office, but we do share ideas. In the virtual world, increasingly, just a small number of billionaires decide which algorithms are going to send us which information, and they do so neither on the basis of any press law nor on the basis of paid-for contents. They do not take any responsibility for contents which they publish or they may not publish. Under the guise of progress, just a few companies and behind them just a few men have secured power to themselves, which endanger democracies and the underlying mechanisms. They may also undermine them and destroy them. And some may celebrate this kind of progress, but these small companies increasingly determine what we can see as information, so also what we think, what we feel, and how we decide and how we vote. And this is not exactly what we understand by freedom of expression and of opinion, and that's why I'm so glad about your words, Ms. Minister. And please, on behalf of the whole industry, please keep a close eye on big tech. Please make sure they can be held accountable. Create a framework where discourse and diversity is possible. Work for a culture of mutual respect, of a fair treatment of the content which we create and we publish, for a national education program which promotes reading skills as well as media usage skills. Please make sure our democratic future of this country is ensured, so that the power of imagination, which is conveyed through our books, will also stand a fair chance against the cold power of tech giants. Because this is what... Yes, please. Sorry. The Frankfurt Book Fair stands for this ever since its restart in 1949, which happened in the Frankfurt Paul's Church. And with this appeal and this hope, and with these words, I would like to open the 77th Frankfurt Book Fair.
Liebes Publikum, wir verabschieden unsere Ehre.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will bid goodbye to our guests of honor for the next event. And please remain seated and welcome again the Madrigal Singers with their songs from the Philippines.
Philippine Madrigal Singers and Songweavers, Philippines.
The Philippine Madrigal Singers and Songweavers from the Philippines.
Liebe Gäste,
dear guests,
die Veranstaltung.
We hope you enjoyed this event and thank you for honoring us with your presence. Here on site and all over the world in front of your screens. We'd now like to invite you to a champagne reception in the lobby of the Congress Center, followed by the opening of the pavilion of our guests of honor from the Philippines in the forum. Enjoy exciting and inspiring days at the 2025 Frankfurt Book Fair.
Möge auch Ihre Fantasie.
May your imagination be inspired too.